beautiful dance is choreographed by Dr. Awale Skin. Mama, let's celebrate the students. Let's put our hands together for this beautiful performance. Welcome to the ancient city of Benin. Is there.
A wonderful performance, reflection of our heritage, and a beautiful downstairs. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, without doubt, I know your names has been calm. If your names has been calm, put your hands together for them. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to recognize the presence of the Liberian, rightly represented by Omagbo Abiyuwa Benita. Put your hands together for her. At this moment, we want to bring on stage the Vice Chancellor of the University of Benin, Professor Edoba Moroge, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, rightly represented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Ikewa Campus, a distinguished pharmacist, a father, and a mentor, Professor Ayende. Put your hands together as he comes on stage. Put your hands together as he comes on stage.
the executive governor of this state, Edo State, Governor Okwelo, ably represented by Prince Kasim Asegua, who incidentally left a while ago. The keynote address speaker, Professor Muyiwa Kuola, someone I can describe as a friend of the university, the pro-tem dean of this great faculty, Professor Marcel Okaku, the former dean of arts, our own friend, our own brother, Professor Yuka, the acting head of department of mass comm, and all heads of departments in the faculty, all the conference members from within and outside the country, all our professors from within and outside Nigeria, all our staff of this great University of Benin, all the LOC members, our dear students, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. I bring one greeting to you from our dear Vice Chancellor, Professor Eduba B. Omarige, who would have loved to be here, but due to circumstances beyond his control, as we speak, himself and other Vice Chancellors, with some other principal officers of the universities, Nigerian universities, are on national assignment. Therefore, he has sent me to represent him in this very important occasion. I will now go to his address. Your Excellency, distinguished Senator Monday Okwebolo, the executive governor of this great state, hereby ably represented by Honorable Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Prince Kasim Afegua, the keynote speaker, Professor Muyiwa Kuola, the lead paper presenter, Professor L.C. Yuka, our host and chairman of the West African Association of Commonwealth Literature and Language Studies, and the dean of the Faculty of Communication and Media Arts, Professor Marcel Okaku, distinguished conferees, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to welcome you all to the great University of Benin, Nigeria, and particularly to the Ekenwa Campus Road, where the university began in 1970. This campus is very significant and important to us as a university, and therefore I welcome you all warmly to this university. I'm also very pleased and proud to welcome everyone here, and especially the international delegates to the 9th International Conference of WAACLASS. WAACLASS had existed briefly in West Africa and went into quick extinction until 2017, when it was resuscitated by WAACLASS, African Association of Commonwealth Literature and Language Studies at the University of Stellenbosch Conference in South Africa, with our own Professor Marcel Okaku emerging as the regional chair. The first conference was held here at the University of Benin in 2018, and as the returned here in 2016. At a time, I had the opportunity to be the Vice Chancellor of this great university. I'm the chairman presiding as the Dean of our nascent Faculty of Communication and Media Studies. The theme of this 9th conference is built around a very topical issue agitating the minds of many scholars around the world today. It is the issue of artificial intelligence. Specifically, the theme is the creative industry, digital humanities, and artificial intelligence, disruptions and transformations in African scholarship and society. I believe there is no better time to interrogate this subject, which is at the intersection of several disciplines. Although the creative industry and digital humanities are specifically set apart, Jet African Scholarship, and the larger society stand not only from the gains of artificial intelligence, but also add to the growing lexicon of the subject matter. The African society is blessed to have very many dynamic youths who have not only embraced artificial intelligence, but have used it to effectively position themselves for societal growth and development. As we gather here for this noble intellectual harvest, I encourage you all to delve into multi-sectoral issues of artificial intelligence and propose workable solutions and theories that help elevate the quality of discourse. Literature and language are certainly bedrocks of any developing civilization, and artificial intelligence has merely added to the beauty of the discourse. I invite you all to find the time to unwind and explore the rich hospitality of the University of Benin, particularly Benin City, and the warmth of the Edo people. The University of Benin, under my watch, is willing and ready to collaborate with the Faculty of Communication and Media Studies to ensure that the proceedings of this WAACLASS conference is published simultaneously and distributed to enable continued visibility of our dear university. While gladly declaring this conference open, I thank you all for listening and wish you well for the duration of the conference and beyond. That is Professor Eduba Omorigi. Thank you for listening. Okay.
Dear Vice Chancellor, rightly represented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor, K1 Campus, distinguished pharmacists, Professor P.A. Ayande. Please pardon my intonation because I thought I was a Yoruba man until I started seeing the complexity of the Yoruba names. Let's put our hands together for our Vice Chancellor. Wonderful speech, wonderful presentation. Without wasting much time, without much ado, we want to invite to the podium a distinguished professor, a great scholar. He's going to present the keynote address. I met him at Benin University, and since then it has been a wonderful outing. I've been a strong addict of his work. I want to bring to the microphone the Deputy Vice Chancellor at Ajayi University for the keynote address, Professor Muyiwa Benjamin Popola. I'm sure I got that correctly this time, Prof.
In the name of God, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. To God be the glory, great things He has done. It gives me great pleasure to be asked to come on board to deliver this keynote. First and foremost, honor must be given to honor is due. It is on this basis that I must acknowledge the presence and priceless availability of the Vice Chancellor of the University of Benin, who is represented here by our own very distinguished Deputy Vice Chancellor of K1 Campus, Professor Ayande. Thank you very much, sir. I do not take it for granted. Thanks for endorsing that I am here to play this role. Thank you very much, sir. And my regards to Mr. Vice Chancellor. And thank you for the very beautiful things that you have been doing for the furtherance of scholarship in the Faculty of Communication and Media Studies of the University. Just coming in, when we see that the faculty complex is ready. And that shows that the disposition of the university management to the growth and development of that faculty is very even. And it is something that all of us must applaud the university management for. Thank you very much, sir. I must also at this point acknowledge the presence of the representatives of other principal officers of the university. The representative of the registrar here present, I recognize Uma. The representative of the university librarian, I recognize Uma. I must do all this because having served management for 4 years, I know what it means not to play with university protocols. And to the very distinguished member of the Communication and Media Studies family in Nigeria, a very great fish, a very big name, somebody whose name resonates what is ideal, somebody who is a champion of qualitative scholarship, and somebody whose names do not only open very good doors in Communication and Media Studies academia, but speak of what move that discipline forward. And that is very good brother, our own eminent professor, intellectual guru, Professor Marcelino Kaka, the Dean of the Faculty of Communication and Media Studies, for deeming it fit to invite me to come on board. I must also at this point recognize the presence of the key lead paper presenter, my dear prof, that I met this morning. Then eminent professors from far and near, especially from sister African countries. I've been interacting with some of them yesterday. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And also the last but not the least, I will use him as a point of contact to every other colleague of mine in the Faculty of Communication and Media Studies. That is the acting head of the Department of Mass Communication, Dr. Daniel Ehariafo. Thank you very much for this opportunity. At the crossroads of school and culture, I think the PowerPoint has been given to you. At the crossroads of code and culture, distinguished scholars and colleagues, creative innovators, and custodians of African letters, it is both an honor and an intellectual responsibility to stand before this gathering under the auspices of WAACLASS and the University of Benin. We assemble at a historical hinge. There is a civilizational crossroads where algorithm meets ancestry, where digital architectures encounter oral cosmologies, and where African scholarship decide whether to be merely processed or profoundly cohorted. We meet at a time when artificial intelligence does not simply compute, it curates. It does not merely assist, it predicts. It does not only replicate language, it begins to simulate authorship. The question before us is therefore not technological, it is ontological. In quote, every technology is a philosophy hardware. And so we must ask, what philosophy underwrites artificial intelligence? What epistemology governs algorithm logic? And what becomes African knowledge systems when compressed into data sets trained elsewhere? It is with immense pleasure and a deep sense of intellectual responsibility that I stand before you today to contribute to the growing discourse on the intersection of creative industries, digital humanities, and artificial intelligence, and the profound disruptions and transformations these convergences has engendered within African scholarship society. There could hardly be a more auspicious or urgent moment than now to interrogate the imagined order shaped by the rapid proliferation of digital technologies, involving entertainment ecosystems and intelligence systems. These forces are not merely shaping industries. They are fundamentally configuring the very architecture of knowledge production, cultural expression, and social organization.
Argumentum ad verecundiam, which is appeal to authority, to arrogate the invention of AI to the European scholars. African socio-cultural practices are magnum opus of art, music, engineering, among others. For somebody who is so skilled in dance as an area of specialization, we would notice
between, the drum beats and the dance steps of those who have just entertained us. That is us. And by the time we interrogate that further, we can see AI, embedded in what has made that particular performance to be a reality. Because the dancers were not looking at those who were drumming. Some certain symbols, some certain, beat drums, some certain, time signatures, African time signatures drove, the steps, the dance steps of those who were dancing. We should, at this point, they develop boldness, not only, as we have said, to challenge the assumptions, concepts of abolitions from, the diaspora, from Western capitalists scholars, without prejudice to ingenuity of scholarship. We should develop boldness to say, for example, before we were talking about, citizen journalism, and at the point, that concept was, became a subject matter of, controversy. Because people look at it and say, what was this why journalism has become, every other senses are business is because of that, concept. What were we taught in the olden days? One of the sources of news used to be what? Tipsters. And who are tipsters? Tipsters are insiders in organizations who volunteer free of charge valuable and invaluable pieces of information to the press. And that is the reason why in those days, and even now, when we come across, according to sources who needed anonymity, these are tipsters. These are insiders who gave free of charge, who were not economical with the truth, who because of public interest and you know, the drive, you know, and judiciary, that all of us are now agreeing to that should be polarized, that should become an all-comers affair. Looking at what they do today, so as we have said, the Odeko and Osoin, among many other instances, stand as African artificial intelligence that simulates human being. Nature of disruption. There are 4 layers of disruption experience that are identified in this keynote. However, the list is inexhaustive. Namely, technology-related disruption, cultural-related disruption, knowledge-based disruption, and political-economic-based disruption. We are witnessing an unmistakable shift from analog systems to digital ecosystems. Platform economics, algorithm creation, and data-driven visibility now determine not only access to information, but also the hierarchies of relevance and influence. The shift from analog to digital ecosystems every day is evident in everyday African life. For example, traditional journalism has been significantly disrupted by online media platforms and blogs, such as Linda Ikeji blogging in Nigeria, and several others which have defined news consumption and celebratory culture. Platform economics now determine visibility, what trends, what goes viral, and ultimately what generates value. Culture-related disruption. Hybrid identities and global local tensions are evidential counters to culture-related disruptions that map creative industries. Knowledge-related disruption. Knowledge production and distribution is now like never before emerged dangerous channels that are boundless, evidenced by the changing role of universities and scholars. A typical channel of knowledge production that orchestrated the disruption is the social media. The rise of non-traditional knowledge producers such as content creators, influencer technologies has defined knowledge that now changes the African identity. The rise of YouTube educators in research methodology, language and knowledge preservation, democratization of knowledge, economic opportunities, social change, governance, and policy. Technology has made it seamless to adopt large amount of data. The use of AI tools and data archives of historical or oral materials easy and material analysis. This has also enhanced promoted new interdisciplinary approaches to scholarship. In addition, AI and digital humanities have made possible for the processing of African languages within the ambit of natural language processing. These transformations offer opportunities for revitalizing indigenous knowledge systems, increase participation beyond online institutions, and provided avenues for open access online platforms and digital publishing such as ResearchGate, Academia Edo, among others, which allow African scholars to share their work globally without traditional gatekeeping barriers. Within the sector of economic transformation, creative industries, digital humanities, and artificial intelligence have contributed to economic opportunities. Materialized growth of creative economies and AI-driven entrepreneurship and innovation. Creative industry in the age of algorithm acceleration. The creative industry has historically been the lifeblood of African resistance and reinvention. From oral epics to Nollywood cinema, from post-colonial literature to digital spoken word, creativity has been Africa's archive of survival. Today, however, creative labor operates within a platformized economy. Algorithms determine visibility. Data analytics shape taste. Monetization models favor virality over depth. The political economy of artificial intelligence within the African creative market raises a number of urgent concerns. One, data extraction without data sovereignty. African cultural expressions become training material for global AI systems without commensurate compensation or attribution. Two, automation of aesthetic production. Matching generated poetry, music, and design challenge the meaning of authorship. And three, platform dependency. Creative entrepreneurs rely on foreign-owned infrastructure that define economic value externally. Now, or let me say consequently, we must ask, in quote, if the drum beat is generated by code, who owns the rhythm? The creative industry is no longer expressive. It is computationally mediated. These mediations alters labor structures, intellectual property regimes, and cultural agency. Digital humanities and the configuration of African scholarship. Digital humanities promises archival recovery, linguistic preservation, and new modes of scholarly collaboration. African manuscripts, oral histories, and endangered languages can now be digitized and made globally accessible. Yes, digitization is not neutral. The architecture of databases determines what counts as searchable knowledge. Metadata categories often reflect Western classification systems. African epistemology, that is fluid, performative, communal, reason distortion when forced into rigid data taxonomies. Digital humanities therefore move beyond technological adoption to epistemological interrogation. Meaning that we as scholars must insist that one, African languages are not merely content, they are cognitive framework. algorithm accountability. In terms of ambiguity, contradiction, and layered meaning, AI, that is artificial intelligence, optimizes clarity, pattern recognition, and predictive efficiency. This tension is not a war. What is it? A philosophical negotiation. As scholars, therefore, if we surrender interpretation entirely to automation, I don't know Muiwabukola. He can tell you I don't know Ayinde, which is prejudicial to the whole gamut plethora of works that Ayinde has done. He will now give an example that the Ayinde I know, or maybe are you talking about David in North Carolina University? He is already reconfirming your search. And that's the reason we say it is what we take to AI that we get from AI. That if you want to use chat box, I just say functions of communication. That is nebulous. And thank God for the type of conference, because whether we like it or not, AI has come to stay. But what the synthesis we are trying to underscore here has to do with the fact that we must humanize, algorithm. Is also rich and enriching academic people to determine what they take to AI, to determine what we ask AI to do for us. Do me a 500-word prose. What we ask AI to do for us. Do me a 500-word prose on form with references. Now you are using, human intelligence. So whatever it will give you may not focus at the end of the day. You are conditioning, you are subjecting its own, that algorithm. You are making that algorithm to what? To your intellectuality. do me not more than 250 words on so and so and so. Which, remember to also George Gardner, Sylbert Peterson, and Little John, Wimmer, and Dominic in your search. And it will the chat box will tell you, hold on. The amount of time it takes chatbot to get back to you, is a function of the task which you have posed to chatbot as driven by your human intelligence. Communication studies as critical infrastructure. Communication studies, that is our field, becomes indispensable in this moment. AI systems are communicative actors. They produce text, images, decisions, they shape discourse ecologies. We must therefore interrogate, one, how AI reframes, how digital platforms restructure public sphere deliberation in African democracy. 3, how misinformation amplified by algorithm virality destabilizes fragile societies. The future of African scholarship depends largely on cultivating critical digital literacy, not merely technological competence, but interpretive vigilance. In this digital age, in quote, literacy is not the ability to read words, but the ability to read systems. Towards an Africa-centered artificial intelligence ethics. But debate AI ethics, because we will not shy away from their language in terms of compliance, governance frameworks, regulatory sandboxing. But Africa must contribute something deeper. And we also have, as scholars, something much deeper to contribute, which is a communitarian ethical philosophy. African thought traditions emphasize relationality, communal flourishing, moral accountability. AI ethics in African scholarship should therefore prioritize, 1, collective benefit over individual profit maximization. 2, cultural preservation alongside innovation. 3, human dignity as non-negotiable. Technology must serve humanity. Humanity must not be redesigned to suit technology. Reimagining the future from disruption to transformation. Disruption is often celebrated in Silicon Valley as creative destruction. But transformation in African philosophical consciousness is regenerative continuity. The challenge is not to risk change, but to guide it. The question now is, we transform African scholarship. It already has done so. It has done so. The question is whether Africa will remain a data colony or emerge as a knowledge architect. Not until we to input and make available our own works. Our works. AI is not a respecter of whom we are. I said something the other time. Even from universities, when we go on accreditation, we change university librarians. I know University of Benin is great in that wise. By the special grace of God, not by mine, not by of this university last year, November. When we got to the library, we marveled at what we saw. One of the things we noticed is that there is need for what is called institutional repository. What is institutional repository? That is, a platform. It's a digital platform that university library of every institution, creates, spends some good money on, with a very good server to digitize and make, global works, scholarly works of academics in that university. We are in a world that if you don't blow your trumpet, nobody will blow it for you. And that's the reason why that definer of public relations. He gives the essence of public relations on the importance of publicity. He says, in quote, public relations is 10% of doing good and 90% of shouting the good that has been done to the groups. And he goes further, to use that biblical induction. says, PR is like, letting your light so shine before men, so that when they see your good works, they glorify your Father in heaven. And it ends by asking that rhetorical question. He said, who can light a candle and put it under a bushel? So, given the reality that we have, global world that we have, if we do not make our work visible, we are deceiving ourselves. Scholars, the challenge before us is, or a major takeaway from this conference, is to rise and begin, even at the level of the individual, make your works visible on ResearchGate. Make yourself visible on academia.edu. Make yourself visible on all, any other platform that, don't let us wait for universities to do this for us. We are investing in ourselves. No university will continue to spend money, well, that should be the case in Nigeria and in some other African countries, because that is what obtains, in Western capitalist universities and universities that are doing well, European universities and American universities. But unfortunately, where we find ourselves now, and our internal and external recognition is to promotion. And to get to, a professorial position, and they will interrogate CV. They will interrogate your CV and discover that in your discipline you are well known. Look at even our professors, despite being professors from Cameroon, from Ghana, they are here. That is a challenge to some of us who are still believing in God, and we are trying as much as possible to get to that position. And that tells us that being a professor is the. What are you professing? What type of professor are you? And by the time you are pronounced as a professor, and what you say is that, Eureka, I have found it. Some professors today, immediately they announce that is the head of scholarship. I am bound to say that professors perhaps are not professors by design, but they are professors by accident. Our internal and external recognition must be had, and how we claim that today is through, our ability, our drive to make available, to digitize, internationalize our works, because AI has come to stay. And that's the reason why, ask chatbots about yourself. You will feel so bad that despite what you have done, your contribution to your scholarship, chatbots is saying he doesn't know you. Ask your phone yourself. Many of us have Gemini. Ask Gemini. Just put your name there. I wonder if Gemini will tell you that, yes, you are a distinguished academic in University of Ilorin who has done this and who has done it. What has accounted for that? Lack of making, using related, and acknowledged platforms to make available our works and our scholarly work to the international community. For some other supporting material to the faculty through, the. Now, concluding remarks. Under 2 minutes, concluding remarks. Distinguished delegates, it has been established in this keynote that disruptions are inevitable, but transformation can be shaped to tease out the desired positive change, development that we crave as an African society that strives to compete on the global stage without losing sight of what defines us. What the future holds for us is a digitally empowered, culturally grounded Africa that embraces the deployment of African technology and artificial intelligence to creative dive our economy and reshape our political and cultural heritage. We therefore call for collaboration across sectors to intentionally invest people, not just technology. As scholars, we are not passive observers of technological evolution. We are authors of civilizational direction. In quote, history does not remember those who adapted quietly. It remembers those who interpreted boldly. Let this conference set not merely an analytical tone, but a continental agenda. Let WAACLASS and the University of Benin become intellectual laboratories where code converses with culture, where data respects unity, and where artificial intelligence encounters African intelligence. The future is written by machines. It is written by minds courageous enough to question them. Thank you very much for this opportunity to deliver this.
We can do more than that. We can do more than that. It was an harvest of intellectual discourse. I don't know if you are thoroughly enhanced, you are thoroughly blessed academically. It started by situating digital humanities and artificial intelligence, as well as creative industries. And it started by saying that technology is a reflection of philosophical construction, and that it is unfair AI as an innovation of European ingenuity and structure. And he said we must deconstruct European concepts and construct the digital platform within as milieu. Put your hands together again for Professor Benjamin Mayuwa Popola. Wonderful presentation. Okay, we want to take good photograph at this junction because I understand our prof want to quickly leave us to face other engagements. So let's take some few photographs while our saxophonist should get ready. Please, we can use this place. Okay. While the photograph is going on, I want to invite our saxophonist to give us some musical. Please, we are also inviting the delegates to the podium for a photograph. Give me this one, Mike, first.
All right, thank you very much. This is the group. Can we have Professor Afutadem? Is he around? Can you join us, please? Okay, thank you. Delegates, you can be part of this also. Delegates from other parts of Nigeria as well as Nigerians. Please be part of this. Okay. All conferees, we want you to be part of this. Dr. Dari, please come over. All conferees. Please hold on. Dr. Victor, please come up, conferees. If you are part of this conference, you can come up. Let's do this quickly. Dr. All conferees. Matthias, are you not a conferee? All right, let's be fast with this. Dr. Nonso. Dr. Indubisi, where are you? Make sure we are seeing your Up here, up here. If you are holding a bag, a conference bag, join this group. Much. Thank you very, very much. Okay. Our friends and well-wishers, thank you. Our professors, thank you. We are not done with this session. We have another wonderful session that is coming up immediately. Now let's sit down for a while quickly. Let's sit down. And those in charge of the tea break, just get ready quickly.
Okay, quickly we want to move ahead to the next part of this presentation. And I'm sure it is something that you will be waiting for, something that is worth waiting for. We want to bring to the microphone a distinguished scholar, the former dean of the Faculty of Arts, University of Benin, who is invariably one of the facilitator and the key men behind this conference, is going to present to us the lead paper. And put your hands together as I bring Professor L.C. Yukas to the microphone, the president of WAACLASS. Put your hands together for him as he comes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Vice Chancellor, represented by Professor Adeshina Inde, the Registrar, University of Benin. I guess all of them have stepped out. The librarian, the keynote speaker, Professor Moiwa Popola, the chairman, WAACLASS, and the Pioneer Dean, Faculty of Communications and Media Studies. Ladies and gentlemen, and to all delegates, je souhaite la bienvenue à tous les délégués venus de différents pays, en particulier les délégations camerounaises de l'Université de Chang. Bienvenue. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to come and share a few ideas here with you. And as I was sitting down there, and the dean made his opening remarks and talked about WAACLASS and how it went down and was resuscitated, and began to talk about the link between literature, communication, and languages. I was just asking myself, why, for instance, is WAACLASS, an art class, not a member of film? Film is the International Federation of Modern Languages and Literature. The full acronym is in French. It is the Fédération Internationale de Langue et Littérature Moderne. This particular organization was founded in 1928, and it is subsumed under UNESCO in 1951. And we are going to hold a conference of film this year in December in Melbourne. So I was just thinking, if you are working on languages and literature and communication and all of that, why don't you join film? Film will make sure that you don't go down, no matter the kind of leadership, because it will put you on your toes. I just thought I could say that, and I can facilitate that. Because I'm the current Secretary General of film. So we can talk about that later. And film only accepts, the membership is only international organizations that cut across regions. And I think you qualify from that perspective. I'm going to be talking about artificial intelligence and the challenges of digitizing African languages. First and foremost, I'm a linguist, so my talk will be tilted towards linguistics, but I'll try to cut out the linguistic terminologies so that we can understand ourselves. Second slide, please. If you look at the second slide, you will find out that the world has witnessed periods of significant technological transformations, that have made human endeavor more efficient, more reliable, better organized. Each of these phases has generally been referred to as the Industrial Revolution. The first industrial revolution, as you can see on the slide, began in the 18th century. And this came with the discovery of coal, which transformed economies of the world from their agrarian state to their industrial state. It was propelled by the invention of the steam engine and metal forging. The second industrial revolution came in the mid-19th century to the mid-20th century, and it came with the discovery of electricity and the internal combustion engine, which facilitated human movement and mass production. Now, the third industrial revolution occurred between the 20th century and between the mid-20th century and the late 20th century. It witnessed the growth of telecommunication, computers, and nuclear energy. The fourth industrial revolution is currently upon us. It began in the late 20th century with the development of digital technology, robotics, artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things. Now, these revolutions have principally been driven from Europe and North America. It should be interesting to interrogate the place of African languages within the unfolding fourth industrial revolution, especially the role of AI in African communication systems. Communication technology has enabled people from all over the world to connect one another, forge opportunities for collaboration and innovation. It is bridging different cultures, communities, and even social media is promoting cross-cultural understanding and tolerance through content sharing. If you pass across any of the corridors in the university, if you remember in the University of Nnamdi Azikiwe University, a student literally attacked a lecturer. It went viral. Why? Because she was doing a recording of a TikTok post, and this lecturer who had just finished a class walked into her post, and she felt so irritated that she had to. And that is what happens all around campus. You move around everywhere, you find people doing content. Some people are living off content. That has been facilitated by. But unfortunately, only an infinitesimal number of African languages are on these platforms. If our languages are not on the information superhighway, then our histories and our cultures and our worldviews are simply excluded from this fourth industrial revolution. What we want to do this afternoon is to first of all look at the challenges that are keeping us out from participating. You will agree with me that we have been bystanders and onlookers for all these other three revolutions that have gone here now. Sure that we become part and parcel of the fourth industrial revolution. Now, what is AI? AI is simply is when computer systems are designed to perform tasks that typically require human intelligence. Thus, machines are now being trained to learn, to reason, to solve problems, and to understand and speak natural languages. AI involves the creation of algorithms and models that allow machines to process information, recognize patterns, and make decisions. So that's AI. Digitization, on the other hand, is the process of converting analog information into digital formats that computers can read and process. Now that we got all of them, let's see, what is linguistics? If you ask any of my students, they will tell you that linguistics is a scientific study of languages. Whether they understand what is the science in that scientific study is another thing. So I will not give you that textbook definition. I'll tell you something that you probably can relate with. I would say that linguistics generally deals with issues of language. It interrogates language structures, sound systems, language and society, and particularly language patterns. You know, every normal person can speak at least one language. Some speak 2, some speak 3, some speak 4. You know, but most of the languages we speak are acquired or learned. Of course, there is a difference between when you learn a language and when you acquire a language. I wouldn't go to that. Those of us who can at least speak our mother tongues have a sense of ownership to that language which we speak. We think that that language is ours, it belongs to us, and nobody dares challenge us about our competence and sometimes ability to perform in that language. Even sometimes when we cannot outrightly explain how these languages are patterned or the structures of this language, or at worst, what makes a sentence correct or a sentence ill-formed. But we still say that it is our language and we know it. So we think that we are masters of our languages, and therefore, by extension, experts in language matters. You know, you bring up any language issue and everybody wants to think that he has something to say about it. This sense of ownership is what has provoked what we generally call language loyalties. You know, many people think their own language is better than the other language. Okay? Until maybe when a European language shows up, people will now want to say that European languages are languages of education. You know, and when I was in 2004, when I was the admission officer of the Faculty of Arts, I remember I was recruiting students for the department section of Department of Edo Studies, and a parent came to me and literally knelt down and told me that they didn't want their child to read Edo language. And I said, why not? It's part of linguistics. That's what we do here. They say no. Even their grandmother, who did not go to school, understands Edo language. Why will their child come to university to sit down and read the Edo language? And that is the level of ignorance that we have about language attitudes. This is why everyone tends to have an opinion about language issues. So linguistics has become a subject area where even the untrained native speaker of any language feels entitled to offer an expert opinion about language planning, sometimes language choice, language adequacy, and language competence. So I'm aware that the ideas that I'm going to be sharing with you today, that I will be talking to experts, because all of us are experts in linguistics, since we at least master our own languages. There is one last word that I'm going to define: intelligibility. And I guess this is very common knowledge to those of us in mass communication. Intelligibility is a reference to a successful communication event within two or more interlocutors. So, as we have seen, language is primarily a tool of communication. Two individuals who speak the same language share knowledge of a set of rules. That's what we know when we say we know a language. We know a set of rules. A violation of any of these rules may result into an ill-formed sentence or a gibberish output. Linguistics and AI have a symbiotic relationship. That's why I went a little bit deeper to discuss linguistics, and then I define AI and define linguistics. They have a symbiotic relationship. They are governed, like Professor Popola said, they are governed by large data sets, which are patterned by limited sets of rules that are capable of generating an unlimited number of output. The concept of generative grammar, for instance, signals a system that continues to produce, to produce output. It is like a machine will generally perform any task that it is asked to perform if the input parameters are correct. If you have two telephone sets, when they are connected by a network, these two telephone sets can be used to communicate in spite of the language that is being spoken. If you take a telephone set, will not discriminate between when you are using Hausa and you are using Fulfulde. It is meant to transmit sound patterns. And if the other person at the other end can interpret, can decode those sound patterns, he will be able to understand the message. So a computer can employ an app, for instance,
to translate language into different other languages. You know, so you think of a system as a set of subsystems. You know, many of us in Nigeria specifically know about what I better pass my neighbor. Huh? I mean, because in Nigeria we are very proud about when we have what our neighbor does not have. You know, it is either you have a borehole in your house, it is either you have a high fence, it is either you have, you know, things. Your car is higher than mine, I'm driving, you know, that kind of thing. That's the kind of things we pride ourselves in. So even when it comes to this small little generator, it has been named in Nigeria, I better pass my neighbor. Now, but other people also called it a generating set. That generating set is a set of subsystems. Because if you look at it, you will see that it has a carburetor, okay? It has a piston, it has maybe a spark plug, it has a petrol tank, and all of that. And if you remove one of these components, you will find out that if the spark plug is not good, I better pass my neighbor will not start. So all those things, all those subsystems have to work together to be able to give an output that you can use to charge your telephone or to run your fan. So we simply say that language is a complex system that is made up of subsystems. And I will link this to AI. And when we go further, you will see why I'm laying this background. And I did tell you that languages and the artificial intelligence are patterned. And to say it more curiously, one is a copy of the other. As a matter of fact, AI is a plagiarist. AI is a copycat of the real systems. And that's what Professor Moewa was telling us here, that if you do not make your data available to AI, if you ask AI, who is Constantine Yuka, for instance, they will tell you that, I don't know him. But if I say, Professor Yuka is a linguist, domiciled in the University of Benin, he has written ABC papers, AI will now say, oh yes, I know him. And then they will go and bring even more papers, that is, same thing that Moewa said. I'll give you this example. These machines that we are using today are just copies of natural processes. If I ask a student, for instance, some of my colleagues are here, if I ask them, did you see Professor Yuka in the Kenya campus yesterday? And if I were actually there, what happens is that the events of yesterday are recorded somewhere and put in a file of 12 April 2026. So, once I ask you a question of something that happened yesterday, what you do generally is just to go to the file of yesterday, you open it up, or the folder of yesterday, you open it up and you locate the particular file knowledge that you are requesting for, and you go there and you click, and then the answer pops out. But if I were in a Kenyan campus, or if I were not in a Kenyan campus, and you are telling a lie, it takes you a longer time to fabricate, to open, you first of all go and open that folder of yesterday, okay? And then you open it, you find out that there is no file that has a record of that you were at the Kenya yesterday. Meanwhile, you probably were at Auchi. If you want to make up the fact that you were at Kenya yesterday, you will have to go and recreate that file. It takes a longer time. It takes, in communication, it takes a longer time to create what does not exist. And that is why when people are telling lies, they need a little bit more energy to be able to create what does not exist. So in the process, the heart pumps a little bit, it comes to brain work, isn't it? So the heart pumps a little bit of more blood to the brain to enable it have the energy to be able to create process, some of the blood goes to other places. The soft tissues, the cartilages, like the ear, your nose, your eyes. And then once we are lying, once somebody is lying, there is some level of discomfort. You will see that either the person is rubbing the eye or touching the nose or twitching the ear. It is because of that. Now, how does this link to AI and computers? It is the same way that the computer operates. When I created these slides to come and give this talk here today, I put the slides in some folder. And when I need it, I will go to that folder, open it, and look for slides for challenges on the dissertation of languages that you get. So what is happening is that AI is just copying and to be able to function. So my task here today is to lead you in the interrogation of the task of enabling African languages to be participants and not onlookers in the unfolding fourth industrial revolution. I intend to lead you for us to look at the current state of African languages, their digitization challenges, and the prospects. And we start with the landscape. Are we there, please? Yes, we start with the diversity of African languages. If you look at this, this is an error. There are over 2,000 languages spoken in Nigeria, in Africa, not 1,005. You can see that there are diverse ethnic groups, different cultures. Africa has very rich cultural oral traditions. There's a global influence in diaspora. There are many languages. Sometimes we have even language mixing, and there are also regional dialects. So this landscape of African languages shows that Africa hosts about 2,000 languages. Only a third of these, and these languages make up a third of the world linguistic heritage. But 46% of these languages, 46% of the 2,000 languages are at the risk of going into extinction. Now, you may ask, how could it be that African languages are almost going into extinction? Why are these languages getting endangered? So I will run through a few of the reasons why African languages in themselves are challenged. There is a colonial legacy that we all know. By colonial legacy, I mean that we were first and foremost peoples. Africa was made up of peoples before the Berlin Conference came, and some people sat out there and drew some lines and said we are now countries. And when they were leaving, they made sure that we spoke their languages. They generally introduced the school system to us and made their languages of instruction in our schools. And we have not been able to break away from the use of these colonial languages. What these languages have done is to put into our heads that our own languages are not important. As a matter of fact, they are telling us that our own languages are uneducated. So people generally they think that if you speak English, if you speak French, if you speak Spanish, if you speak German, that it shows that you have gone to school. At least some people even go to the extent of speaking in such a very highfalutin manner that they say they are speaking high grammar to show that they have been to school. Of course, there is lack of investment. Our governments are not particularly investing in the study of our languages, so these languages are dying. And of course, there are language attitudes. The fact that we ourselves, even though we own these languages, we tend to think that they are uneducated. The third is the fact that the traditional methods of language preservation have now proven insufficient. When the study of African languages began by colonialists, Westermann from Germany, Joseph Greenberg, who started the classification of African languages in the 60s. They were bunching language families together. And you can see from the board that these languages are divided in groups. There are Afro-Asiatic languages, there are Nilo-Saharan languages, there are Khoisan languages, there are Niger-Congo languages, and all those languages. And so we are using pen and paper to be able to document and study our languages. And we are saying that our field of research shows that these traditional documentation methods capture only about 15% of the languages and their cultural context. Professor Moibat. There is also the concept of rapid urbanization. Everybody in Nigeria, for instance, everybody is running to Lagos. Okay, everybody. If you are poor from your village, you think that there is some gold in Lagos, that everybody is running there. This kind of urbanization, and Abuja, and in other cities like Johannesburg in South Africa. And this urban migration often results in the younger generations adopting the dominant languages for economic and social advancement. So even when English or French, like it's if I had an opportunity to talk about the French in Cameroon, for instance, you will see how it is suffocating the indigenous languages and even attempting to suffocate the other exogenous minority, which is language, which is English. So the migration in itself is not allowing people who are migrating to speak their own languages in those places. You can see that the bigger languages are dominating the minority languages. And that's why in Nigeria today, if you, those who are doing hip hop, if you do hip hop, no matter if you sing hip hop in Igbo, and eventually you don't put in one Yoruba, the chorus is not in Yoruba or something, your song may not be able to sell. And that's why these minority languages are dying. So that's what rapid urbanization across Africa is doing. There are also the lack of standard writing systems. There is even limited availability of written records, recorded materials, and the low presence of these languages in schools and, of course, in the internet. One of the things that because I see a huge Cameroonian delegation here, one of the things that Cameroon has done has been to harmonize the writing systems of all indigenous languages in Cameroon. And it's a very good thing for them. And that's what Nigeria should be encouraged to do. So that systems, the Orobo people have their own writing system, and then the Igbos, and then the Yorubas, and some will write with dots, some don't mark tones, and all of that. This lack of standardization of these writing systems is making it difficult to be able to digitize these languages, and it's also making it to go endangered. Of course, there are complex word formations. Many African languages form words by joining smaller units together, allowing a single word to carry a lot of meaning. This process, known as, I think they called it agglutinating process. I don't want to bring that up. It affects how words relate to one another and how meaning is built into sentences. Such kind of complexity, is affecting these languages. And of course, there is tonal variations. For those of us who studied basic English, you will know that we generally say that English is a, what do you call it? English is a stress time language. Okay? So you can distinguish a word, a verb from a noun by simply placing stress. For instance, import and import. You can say request and request, export and export. So it depends on where you place it. But in African languages that are tonal languages, you now see that one word can have different tones, and those tones are meaning bearing. And there is a language, I think it's called Panso. It's spoken in southern local government in Taraba State, you know, and I have some data on that language. There is a word, L-U-M. You can call it loom, which will mean sitting. You can be loom, which is bite. You can say loom, which is heat, and you can say loop again, which is to fall in labor. One word, but the only thing, same L-U-M, but the only I didn't want to bring all of that here. You know, so you have those tonal variations to the extent that we are now gradually beginning to make English, that is supposed to be a stress time language, a tonal language. Okay? And so you hear people say something like, students will tell you, I am in final year, instead of I am in final year. They will say, I'm going to Mission Road, instead of Mission Road. We have even translated it to pounded yam, instead of pounded yam. So you see that we are transferring the tonality into English. So these tonal, the point I'm making is that these tonal variations are making the languages complex, making it difficult to document them, and these languages are getting endangered. We've talked about writing systems even across Africa. Then there is the digital revolution, of course, what we're talking about here, AI. While it is offering solutions, it has paradoxically accelerated language decline. The internet predominant languages create what we term, I think they call it a digital linguistic divide. Some people have called it language flaring, that the languages of the internet, the languages for which you can quickly type on your telephone, the languages that when you type them on your laptop will underline it as wrong, like wrong grammar. You know, you type your name, it will underline it and try to give you an English correction of it. These are the kinds of things, because our languages are not present, and we'll see that very soon. These languages are underrepresented online, you know, and in social media and digital communication, and this is not encouraging. These languages. Now, let's go to the main issue of the day, which is the challenges of digitizing African languages. I'll try to rush through all of them. Please, can you put on this? No, not this one. Yes, efforts at digitizing African languages. I'll start with the scarcity of written records. You know, for you to, I've defined digitization as the process of transforming something that is analog information into digital form so that it can be learned and processed by language. If you don't have those records, those analog records, you will not have anything to digitize. That's the basic point. So we'll say that unlike Indo-European languages or Semitic languages with centuries of manuscripts, most African languages are primarily oral until the colonial period when we started trying to write all these languages. This lack of early documentation has made it very difficult to digitize the non-existent analog data. So for you to be able to digitize, you must have that data. Most African languages, we don't even have that data. And of course, the second one is dialect continuums and naming confusion. The fact that many African languages exist in clusters, like we saw these families in the previous slide, with overlapping dialects, making it difficult to decide what counts as a language versus what is a dialect. And there are multiple names for the same language, given the different ethnic groups, colonial administrators, and they add further confusion. I'll give you a living example. Like, which example can I give? My wife is Ika, okay, from my wife's come from Umonide. And she always tells me that, look here, my dear, Ika is a language. We are not Igbos, you know? But when I get data, I tell her that, look, Ika is a dialect of Igbo. Because of language loyalties, the Ika people don't want to subsume themselves under the Igbos, simply because the Igbos are a larger linguistic unit, and they will basically be subsumed under the linguistic, and that comes with linguistic nationalities. They want to say that they are, and I apologize if there are any Ika people in this. I'm not trying to, I'm just using that as an example. I will report to my wife that I called her name in my lecture, you know. But basically, it is a fact that the Ika people are actually looking for an Ioma state. You understand? They are looking for a state of their own. They think Urobos that they are a little bit too dominant and all that. So there are these nationalities that people are fighting. So you will see that there is they claim that there's an ethnic group called Ika, and there is also a language called Ika. Meanwhile, the data set tells us that this is a dialect of Igbo. So because of nationalities, people tend to insist that they are not that dialect, that make dialects for languages. Meanwhile, if we were digitizing Igbo, we don't need to be sentimental about it. We just digitize them with Ika and then bring in dialectal nuances, and our job will be done. The point I'm making is that these kinds of surface conflicts tend to are a problem to language digitization. There is also the problem of the classification problem. The tendency to focus on broad families like the Niger-Congo, the Afro-Asiatic, the Nilo-Saharan, this often overshadows a detailed study of the individual grammars of the languages that will lead us to digitization. For instance, myself and my colleague, Professor Ikoyo Uweto, we won a research grant, I won't tell you how much, from TEDFund, to be able to write we have written the grammar of ESA. We are now doing narrative of ESA. And it is those efforts to digitize them that currently I'm also writing a grammar of another language. So what we need to do is to concentrate on the detailed study of the grammars. Make sure that we are having grammars, we are having primas, and that we are collecting word lists. It is those word lists that will enable us to digitize these languages, and we are not doing that, and that is a challenge. Then some classifications are based on limited data, and debates continue about whether certain languages belong to certain families. Digitization begins with a detailed study and mapping of the sounds and the patterns of each language, not from the study of language families. And of course, there are political and social factors. I think we've talked about that. Basically, that language studies are often entangled with identity, colonial history, and nationalism. Efforts at standardizing or promoting certain languages sometimes suppress local varieties. And of course, there are oral traditions versus written records that we talked about. And the fact that oral traditions, African languages depend on oral traditions, and these oral traditions preserve the culture. But these oral traditions are fluid, and they are prone to several interpretations. If I call this delegate here now, and I whisper something to his ear, and I tell him to tell the next person, and I tell the next person to tell the next person, by the time he reaches up there, you will have completely a different thing. Somebody is either adding or is subtracting. And that is a problem with having a system that is dependent on oral traditions. So without written text, without reconstructing older stages of language on comparative methods, which can be speculative, computational forms, and machines do not speculate. We will talk about standardizing issues. We mentioned it earlier. But different languages have revealed significant challenges in digitization. We talked about dialectal variations, which lack clear documentation. Then there are multiple competing orthographies that exist for many African languages. I had a colleague of mine, Professor Mozwa, if you remember his inaugural lecture, is Mr. Right, writing is right. You say sometimes the Edo people, they are writing Edubo or with either O, some are writing it with OR, and all. Those are the writing system. And what is a writing system? A writing system is generally a consensus. You will wonder, when you look at English, you will wonder, oh, what is, what is PH doing in Philip? Okay, you will wonder what a K is doing in knife. You will wonder all sorts of things. But those are conventions. For us to have a writing system, we just need to come together and say and agree that this is how we will